Guys, welcome to another fun episode of TFL Talking Trucks. I am Andrei Smirnov with the Fastlane Truck.
And I'm Nathan Adlin with everything else.
Heck yeah. And Nathan, what is the theme of this show?
You know, everything can benefit from improvements, and we think that pickup trucks, pretty much all pickup trucks, can benefit from improvements that we're going to suggest.
Yes, you know, I can benefit from some improvements. I could lose some weight.
So could I.
Anyway, so this show is about, we're going to go down the line, right? Every major pickup truck sold in the United States. We've tested them over the last 8 years thoroughly. So we have a few suggestions.
Yeah, these are suggestions, and we're hoping that at the end of this video that you guys add your suggestions as well.
Yep. So let's get going. Thank you for joining TFL Talking Trucks podcast. If you love pickup trucks or big full-size SUVs, if you love trailering, towing, and going off-road, this is the right place to be. Together we can make this podcast the most popular ever. Nathan, when I got to the studio, and if you're watching on TFL Talk YouTube channel, you will see this, but I saw this bright green AEV Prospector Ram heavy-duty off-road truck. What's going on with this?
That is everything that the Power Wagon needs to be. And we'll get to that in a few moments because it is here on our list. And this list is not in any particular order, by the way, in terms of making these improvements. However, if you look at that truck, everything about it is epic. And that's what we want. We want epic trucks coming from the factory. And we're so close now, but there are still improvements that nearly every truck needs.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about off-roading, right? We're talking about all aspects of trucking, including fuel efficiency, towing capability, payload capability, off-road ability, comfort, and even maybe price.
Indeed. Well, actually, yeah. That's
well, let's start. What's first?
First on our list is the Chevy Colorado and the GMC Canyon. These are vehicles that are about to be significantly refreshed. At least
and redesigned. Yes.
Yeah. So it has a newer design to it, but it needs more. It needs a lot more.
So what we're referring to right now is the 2021 Chevy Colorado and Canyon, GMC Canyon. They have just received certain very slight updates.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, not a lot.
So we're talking about like the bumper change, maybe fog light placement.
A couple interior upgrades.
There's a GMC 84 now, which is an off-road version of a Canyon.
It's not that off-roady.
No, and we've tested it, and we saw that. But so, do you want to start? You know, let's focus on the Colorado. What are your thoughts?
Well, this actually goes across to both of them. There is a new powertrain that General Motors has recently built, and Andre's actually tested it early on. We've tested it before with full-size pickups, and it is their 2.7-liter four-cylinder engine. It is a very high-output turbocharged four-cylinder engine. Obviously, it's because it moves a half-ton truck around quite well. We want this engine to be put inside the Colorado and the Canyon. It would be epic.
I would agree. It's a four-cylinder turbo, massive power. I mean, in the Silverado and the Sierra, it's currently being sold. 310 horsepower and about 347 pound-feet of torque. In a little truck, that would be monstrous.
It would be, but it's not that much more than some of the competitors that are out there.
Yes, so let's talk about what the Colorado has briefly now, right?
Yes.
So it has a 3.6-liter V6 that has a 308 horsepower now, so already that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's made it to an 8-speed automatic currently.
Right.
They also have a diesel, a baby diesel, right? The 2.8-liter four-cylinder.
Which we're hoping will still be in the next truck. We're not sure yet.
Yeah, and also they have a kind of a base four-cylinder, just normally aspirated engine. And, you know, Colorado and Canyon have been redesigned. The current generation came out, 5 or 6 years ago. You and Roman actually went to one of the first events, right, on the Colorado.
We did. In fact, one of the, amongst all the vehicles we drove, we actually drove a manual four-cylinder, which is only rear drive, and drove all the other ones as well. Now, this is before the ZR2 came out. This is before the AT4 and all that. And even then, you know, we like the truck. We like it quite a bit. But it needs a lot of work. And one of the things it really needs, a lot of these trucks do, but this one definitely, it needs a better interior, a higher quality interior to go along with its price.
Yeah, I would agree. So it's getting long in the tooth right now, and we're probably not going to get a new Colorado and Canyon for at least maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years. That's kind of the timeline that GM unofficially and sort of officially kind of communicated.
With COVID and everything else going on, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're still about 2 years away from the next generation truck. The current truck is not necessarily bad, right? It's a good seller.
Oh, it's a great seller, and I think that the ZR2 is by far one of the best off-road trucks built, period.
Yeah, I would agree. But I would agree with you. It needs the new powertrain because the V6 is fine, the diesel is good, but you need a little bit more, the world is kind of moving on, right?
Right.
The Ranger has a turbocharged power plant, which is very strong.
Very strong, and that's exactly why I proposed this 2.7.
Yeah, and like you said, when you get into the current Colorado, even the latest one, and the Canyon, it's fine, it's laid out fine, but it feels like it's aging a little bit, right? It feels like technology maybe is not quite, where all the latest and greatest stuff is.
Indeed, and then if you look at the GMC Sierra and its AT4 package, I scratch my head and I think to myself, can't they build a ZR2 version of that AT4 for the GMC to make it just as capable? That way you have a choice between the two of them, and they didn't do that, and I'm hoping that they will. That's another thing.
Yeah, but for 2021 year, in a few months, they have something called the AT4 Extreme off-road package, but it's still not super extreme.
Yeah.
So, yes. And also on the ZR2, it's an awesome truck. Don't get me wrong, it's got lockers front and rear.
Yep.
It's got amazing shocks, suspension, and it's a little bit wider than the normal Colorado.
Yeah,
but the tires are they're kind of small.
I like the tread on the tires. Yeah. I think that works. We've driven these things off-road everywhere, but it does need, I wouldn't mind having a slightly larger tire, a little bit more meat on the sides. That would be nice. Speaking of the Chevy Colorado, how about we move on to its main competitor?
Yeah, let's do this. What's next?
The Ford Ranger.
Yes, the Ford Ranger just came in the scene, in 2019 model year, just not long ago.
No, not long ago. Andre and I actually drove one from California to Colorado.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was an awesome drive. We took it to Moab. We did a little bit of a long MPG push on it, and we liked it quite a bit. The powertrain is extraordinary. You get a standard 2.3 liter turbocharged engine with a standard 10-speed automatic transmission, which is great. If you get the off-road package with it, the FX4, you get a locking rear diff and a really good off-road electronic system too. But there are a couple things that we feel this truck needs.
Yeah, well, speaking of the ZR2 Colorado, right? So we tested the FX4 Ranger, like you said, in Moab and other locations around the country, and we came away. It's good, but it's not a ZR2 competitor, right? It doesn't have kind of the clearance, some of the front clearance, or maybe the tire size.
Doesn't have a front locker.
Or the front locker that the ZR2 offers. So if I wanted to make the Ranger just a little bit better, and it's already good, as far as towing and payload capability and technology, I wanted to give it a slight lift.
Yeah.
So, and I think Ford was reading our minds, when we were doing all this stuff, because the Ranger Tremor is coming, right?
Yeah, the Ranger Tremor will have a little bit more ground clearance, a little bit more of an aggressive off-road capability kind of baked into it. However, there are a couple other things that I want to mention about the Ford Ranger.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of passionate about that. I love mid-sized trucks.
Yes.
I absolutely do. One of the things I love about mid-sized trucks is you can still get a couple of them with a manual transmission. Unfortunately, the Ranger and actually the Chevy as well can't get those. I know for a fact that Ford has built a 7-speed manual transmission, which they're using in the Bronco, with the same engine that's basically inside of the Ranger, right? The same 2.3 liter 4-cylinder engine. So the question is, would Ford consider putting that transmission inside the Ranger to give you perhaps an entry-level Ranger? I think that would be awesome. Not only that, but I know the take rate isn't that good for manual transmissions, but maybe a little limited run on that. I know a lot of you guys really miss having a manual truck, and there's only a few out there that offer them, namely Toyota and Jeep. That's it. Nobody else does.
Correct.
Nissan no longer does. Which
and the Ram heavy-duty trucks no longer do.
Oh no.
So yeah, the manuals are kind of going away, and enthusiasts still kind of clamor for that.
Right here.
Yeah, not maybe the general public, not everybody wants a manual, but
how much fun would it be though to drive?
Rowing your own.
Yes. And I know a lot of you are like, well, hey, it won't tow as much. I'm fine with that. We know that already from other pickup trucks that have manual transmissions. They don't tow as much as the automatics. However, a lot of people prefer that control, and a lot of people don't need to tow maximum. So if this thing would tow, I think the right now the base model regular Ford Bronco tows 3,500 pounds with the manual transmission. I believe that's what it's at.
Yeah, but it's an SUV. I mean,
right.
A truck, it could be more.
And the truck tows, God, a lot.
7,500.
7,500. So if you can cut the difference and make it tow, say, around 5,000 pounds, 4,000, even 4,000. I'll take 4,000. But 5,000 pounds, that would be awesome. This truck has already got just an amazing engine. And then one more thing it needs.
What?
A better interior. Ford has already proven that they can do it with their new F-150, which has an extraordinary interior by comparison. Mm-hmm. This old one looks good. I think it's a good looking interior, but the materials are very cheap feeling. And if they could just up the game a little bit, considering the fact that these are not inexpensive trucks, that would be great.
I would agree on the interior as well. So the current Ranger that's on sale in the U.S., it's a weird combination of new tech and kind of old tech.
Yeah, right.
So because they put them together and
because it's overseas older Ford Ranger underneath, except for a couple of components that have been changed.
Yeah. So they said they talked about updating the frame, the bumpers, obviously the power plant, that they put in it, and then they put a lot of technology inside of it, but kind of wrapped it into this older generation interior style, right? Mm-hmm. That came from overseas. So it's kind of a weird kind of combination. I think a new interior would do great. You know what else though? Something that Toyota and Chevrolet and GM are offering in the midsize trucks are various wheelbases. So right now you can get a Tacoma or a Colorado crew cab with a longer bed.
That's right.
So the Ford Ranger does not offer that. So
you can only get two different crew cab configurations.
Correct.
Right?
So the crew is available, and an extended cab is available in the Ranger.
So the crew cab doesn't give you a longer bed?
Oh, well, the crew cab comes with a 5-footer.
Right.
And the extended cab with a 6-footer. But you cannot get a crew cab 6-footer.
Right. Okay. So you can't mix and match is what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay, so it's kind of one wheelbase. And I think they wanted to simplify it, get it out there, right? And actually get it sold and built and then later on, maybe, this is what we're talking about, improvements, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Actually, when the Ranger came out, I was really excited when it came out. I actually went to the first event for it, which was pretty mellow. But the point is, Andre and I actually talked about it, and we were really stunned about the fact that, at least back then, Ford wasn't really advertising it very much. They weren't really throwing it out there. And we came to the conclusion that one of the issues they have is they were worried about it eating into their F-Series sales, which is, a reasonable worry, But at the same time, if you look at the sales numbers of the Ranger, regardless of the fact that they haven't done a ton of advertising with it, they're selling a lot of them, and it's moving up and up and up. They're actually on fire.
Yeah, I think I don't have the latest data from December and November.
Right.
But I think they're knocking on Chevy's door.
Yep.
I mean, I think they just passed them maybe recently, or maybe they're about the same in sales.
Right.
Chevy Colorado, that's been around.
Which has been around for a while. So
and of course, Tacoma is still out there, bestseller.
Yeah.
Right. But I think they're feeling the pressure from this.
I guarantee it. And what that does is it forces everybody to up their game, which is another point to improving these trucks. But we'll get to that in just a minute.
What's next?
The next one, we were just talking about mid-size trucks again, the Jeep Gladiator, which is a mid-size pickup truck.
Yes. And so it just came out in 2020 model year, right? So very recently, about a year and a half ago or so.
One of my favorite trucks, by the way.
Yeah, it's cool because it offers kind of convertible feeling, with off-road capability and kind of the crew cab style, right?
Right. I'm a guy who likes to go off-road, but I don't usually do the hardcore heavy pounding that you sometimes see us do with my own private vehicles. I like to go fishing and camping, whatever. And I tow a little bit, not a lot. And this truck fills all of the, all those boxes you can check off. But there are a couple problems with it. And really, they both kind of blend into each other. If I may, I'm just going to go right into one of my issues.
Go ahead.
They're not cheap. Now, granted, you can get online right now an absolute base model, which I have been looking at, by the way, with a manual transmission for about $32,000. That's like with online discounts. Good luck finding one of those, by the way. Realistically, they're close to 40 grand, for a fairly well-equipped one. And that's a lot of dough for a mid-sized pickup truck, especially because a lot of people out there, as much as they want to have the Jeep, can't afford to have that type of fun vehicle. So I have a proposal.
Yes.
Make a less expensive version of it.
How do we do that?
Well, two-door. Why not make a two-door?
Okay.
We went to Moab, and they actually had an example for us to drive a couple years ago during the Easter Jeep Safari, and Roman and I did drive it, and you guys, I think it called the J8, you guys were absolutely freaking out over it, and I agree. It would be so awesome because nobody else seems to be making a standard cab pickup anymore, especially a little one. So why not make that and just kind of dull it down a little bit in terms of features, have it very simple, have it come in the mid-20s for standard four-wheel drive, the Pentastar V6, manual transmission, make everybody happy. And then on top of that, it would be nice if even the four-door had a slightly less expensive version as an entry-level model. That would be nice.
Yeah, and I think, yes, so we recently had a Gladiator diesel, the Eco Diesel.
Which was an incredible vehicle in terms of its tech, but my God, it was expensive.
It's by far the most expensive midsize truck that I've ever seen or test drove.
How much did that thing come in?
It was like almost 66,000.
Now think about that. Think about how much that really is for a mid-sized pickup truck.
Yes, but it had the works, right? Well, it was a Rubicon. It had obviously all the Rubicon running gear, right?
Yeah.
The heavier axles, all the capability.
It had the diesel, which is what really made it expensive.
Yes, it had the diesel for $4,000 extra, and the automatic that comes with that diesel. It's another $2,000, and then had different top options and. Oh my gosh, all the tech you can imagine. But I think you kind of nailed it on this one. So it starts as a crew cab, right? Four-wheel drive.
They all are.
So that's why it's more expensive, right?
Yeah.
Already. Because if you compare it against a Chevy and a Ford and a Toyota, those offer two-wheel drive versions, right? And those offer smaller cabs.
Right.
So Jeep doesn't have that right now.
Right, and that would be their argument. And I've actually talked to some of the FCA guys, and they say, listen, right out of the box, you get four-wheel drive, you also get a big crew cab, and you don't, these other ones, you don't get that. That's true, but if you go online and you configure, let's just say Toyota Tacoma, head-to-head with the Jeep, you'll find that the Jeep tends to be quite a bit more expensive for roughly the equivalent. That is until you get to the Rubicon. Because at that point, once you get to the level of the Rubicon, the only vehicle, in my mind, that competes directly against it would be the Chevy Colorado. We talked about the ZR2 because it has a front locking axle, and you can get a diesel, although they are very different diesels.
Yeah, totally. And I think, so when Jeep first rolled this out, right, we were there. We were fortunate enough to be at those first events, and they talked about specifically that it's a combination of Jeep, character and capability with truckiness.
Yeah.
They wanted to combine them too. But after spending 2 years, and we have a long-term Gladiator, by the way.
Yes, we do.
TFL truck owns one.
Yes, we do, and it's phenomenal.
And I think Tommy sleeps in it because he's in love with it.
Yeah, he licks the door handle every once in a while to make sure that we don't go near it.
But after living with it and testing it and driving it, the truckiness is not fully like what I would expect there.
Really?
So the short bed, 5-footer only, right? There is no long bed once again.
Yeah, you can drop the
So I like your idea. Shorten the cab, extend the bed.
Yeah, why
not? And all the overland guys and gals will love that because they can put little campers in there, right? Build them out with shelves and tents.
Or actually make it into a work truck. The forestry, any organization that needs to actually go off-road as a profession would love something like that.
So I would agree, and if they can find to make it less expensive,
just a little bit less expensive,
yeah,
for an entry-level price, that'd be great.
I mean, they're trying. They have crank windows on the base model, dude.
Yes, I know. And guys, just so you know, full disclosure, I actually came pretty close to buying one, an absolute base model S, I think it was, or whatever. Manual transmission, soft top. It had two options, and that one with the two options came in at around 34. And it was just, at the time, bad timing, and I didn't do it, and I kind of regret it. But at the same time, it would be nice. It would be really, really nice if it could be much closer to 30, let's say. I'm just throwing that out there.
But what if you looked around and found a slightly used one of these days.
I would consider it. It's a funny thing because normally I only buy used. I'm a cheap guy, as many of you know, and I'm on a tight budget. Kids and going to college, stuff like that, coming up real soon. So, would I buy one of those? Absolutely. It would still have to pretty much be very close to being a lower level model, though. I don't want all the bells and whistles and goodies. I want the least amount of things to go wrong as possible. As such, I wouldn't want too many goodies on it. But that's just me. Cool. I know a lot of you guys are different.
Well, let's move on to the next one. We have a few left, right?
Oh, we have quite a few left. The next one is Toyota Tacoma. Toyota Tacoma is by far the best-selling vehicle in its class. Mid-sized trucks, the Toyota Tacoma is absolutely cleaning up. And for a lot of very obvious reasons. For one, they're known to be rock solid, reliable. They're damn good looking, especially from the outside. They're very capable. And the cool thing about the Tacoma, more so than any other truck on this list, is they are mucho configurable. You can do several different types of configurations. You don't have to buy the most expensive off-road package to get a really good off-roader. You can get their
TRD off-road package.
TRD off-road
right.
without the Pro, and it is fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. The thing is, they need a couple things to make this truck even better, and one of the main issues that I've come back to a million times, and so have many of you, interior, especially the seats.
Yeah, and they've tried to adjust them, update them, move
a little
them.
bit.
I think it's really a limitation of the cab, right?
The way they designed that cab is very, very low.
So the cab is, it has ground clearance, so the floor is a little bit higher. And then they didn't want to make it huge, right? So the roof, was normal height. So that doesn't leave a ton of space between.
I was told it was for aerodynamics as well.
Them, yeah.
Yeah, they wanted it to, have a nice sloped glass and, a roof that isn't too high. But, I had the first generation Tacoma and I absolutely loved it, but I had the same problem where I was sitting in a fairly uncomfortable position to drive that truck. The newer ones are better, and now they have a power seat for the driver,
yes,
which is available. And with that power seat, you are able to drop that seat down a little bit further, but then you have the problem where your legs are almost completely straight forward to the pedals. I know that some of you guys are like, well, I'm totally comfortable. I love my Toyota, and I'm going to burn down your house because there's something mean about a Toyota. Look, I love the vehicle, but I do feel that they need to somehow find a way to make the interior a little bit more comfortable, and on top of that, maybe a little bit more modern.
So when this third gen, the latest Tacoma came out, right?
Yeah, you and I went to that event.
Yeah, it was a pretty awesome event in Tacoma, Washington.
That's right.
Then it was a very highly competitive truck. I mean, it had all the goodies. It had an updated engine, choice of transmissions.
Yeah, it had that composite bed.
Composite bed was still there.
Yeah.
Right, all the goodies were there.
Four-wheel drive system was phenomenal.
They changed the interior a bit, and technology, full of technology.
Yeah, I was thrilled with it.
But now I feel like, it's great, but the world is getting more competitive. The Gladiator came on the scene, the Ranger came on the scene.
Right.
And Toyota is very methodical and slow how they update things, right?
In every single way.
Yes. So I think in order to make a Tacoma more or better in general, I would like just a package, an additional box where I can buy more aggressive tires.
Tires would be huge.
Yeah, so I mean, they come with Wrangler with Kevlar, right?
Yeah, which are great on the street and they're decent all weather, but off-road they're not that great.
And we've off-roaded with them countless times.
Yeah.
But they're just not the best tire overall.
They don't have the best grip off-road.
No, and especially when you get into mud and some other situations, not really the best tires. So maybe they could make the Tacoma TRD off-road
Plus.
There
you go.
Yeah, a little plus, just a little
plus right there.
Plus. And that plus would be the tires. Mm-hmm. And also, the 6-speed they have? It's a 6-speed, first of all. But sometimes it's just, they've updated it several times again. Yeah. But it's not perfectly matched to the engine. In the mountains when we're driving around.
We rev the crap out of it when we tow, that's for sure.
Yeah, the engine has to rev high. It's kind of normal for a midsizer, right? But the transmission sometimes is confused when we're going into the mountains, especially in Colorado. So maybe the powertrain needs a little bit of work.
Yeah, I would agree, and a lot of people, there have been some complaints about this newer direct injected engine, dual direct injected. There have been some issues with it, according to some people. There is a couple things. Also on top of that, the Jeep, going back to the Jeep Gladiator, the manual transmission they have in the Jeep Gladiator might be the very best manual transmission I've ever driven in a pickup. And I think that Toyota needs it. The throws are almost perfect. The clutch engagement's quite good, a little soft, but it's really, really good. The one that's used in Toyota, I'm grateful that Toyota still has a manual transmission option, isn't quite as fun to use, and it's a little longer throws and everything else. So I just think that the one that the Jeep has, if that could migrate to the Toyota, would be awesome.
Really quick, I want to blow your mind.
Blow my mind.
I want to see if I can do it.
Okay.
Because it's not easy. How about Toyota Tacoma Hybrid?
Oh.
Do you see what is your brain exploding?
It's not exploding because we know where they're going with some other technology. And Toyota's actually been on the forefront of hybrid technology for years and years and years.
Decades. Yes. They've done hybrids.
Oh, yeah, big time. So they know what they're doing. And I think that there's going to be a point in time. Right now, Toyota's on the fence about EVs in general. It's a whole different conversation. But will they make a plug-in or a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid version of the Tacoma with the next generation? That's a possibility, and I wouldn't put it past them to do it.
Well, we heard rumors that the Tundra might get a hybrid.
That's where this is all coming from.
Yeah, so Tacoma, hybrid, that term has not been very sexy in the last couple decades, right? It was equated to efficiency, slowness maybe, and maybe small cars, right? But now we have the F-150 hybrid that's on the scene.
Which is just extraordinary.
And it's fast, and it has power export capabilities where you can run stuff out of it.
It's got over 700-mile range.
Yeah, and it's almost making that word cool. Right,
yeah.
It's going to take some time. It's not going to be easy.
Well,
right?
there's a lot of people out there who are like me, unfortunately, kind of a little slow in the uptake, and I am afraid of technology to a certain degree. Cell phones terrified me for years. The idea of having a hybrid truck that has so much technology is a little scary. When you're thinking 10 years down the line, because if I buy a vehicle, I want to keep it for a minimum of 10 years. And I want to make sure it's running as good in 10 years as it was the day I bought it. Let's move on, though.
Yes.
Because we mentioned it briefly, to the Nissan Frontier. Now, bear in mind, guys, we know that the Nissan Frontier is about to have a brand new platform on top of the new engine, which is already out. It's a weird mix of what they decided to do. So currently, we know that the old platform is housing the new powertrain. The new powertrain is their new 3.8 liter V6 hooked up to a 9-speed automatic transmission. The transmission is very similar to the one that's being used currently inside of the brand new Titan. Now, here's the thing. They announced, and they were very serious about this when I asked them, will you have a manual transmission available for this truck like you used to do? And they looked me square in the eye, and they mumbled something and they said no. And I thought, that's a pity. And then I asked, what about a base model? What about a base model 4-cylinder? No. So everything they have now in terms of the least expensive pickup truck you can buy currently, the old Nissan Frontier, gone.
Yeah, so 2020 has been a weird year for the Frontier, not just all of us too. Obviously, I think in general, and we've had the 2018 base model, right? The little white truck.
Our final Frontier project.
Yeah, we called it the final Frontier project, that actually Nissan gave it to us for an extended period of time, for several months. That was the most affordable truck in the land. It was like 19 grand plus.
Right, it had a 5-speed manual. And
a little 4-banger.
Yeah, and a 4-banger, and it was just a tenacious little truck.
Yes, and it was awesome. 2-wheel drive, but we've taken it even off-road.
It didn't do very well. We took it to high elevation, and oh my God, it was a very unhappy truck.
Okay.
But it was fine. It
was a
rugged.
Great, affordable, nice little truck. And you can actually reach in it and grab stuff out of the bed easily, and then you can get into it, and it feels good. There was nothing really wrong with it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, in 2020, they decided to upgrade the powertrain in the old generation truck. They threw the manual transmission away, like you said, discontinued the 4-cylinder, and actually the truck became more expensive.
They made a premium truck. And
I wouldn't say premium necessarily, but the V6 became there.
It is a premium truck if you're thinking, okay, you're only allowed to get it with this really nice V6 that they have, which is
really powerful, by the way.
Very powerful, efficient. But you're not allowed to get a base model, and by doing that, you are forcing people to buy a premium truck. And my point is, there's no option for the guys who don't want to spend $35,000, $40,000 on this truck. They want to have a less expensive truck in the 20s, and they don't build that anymore.
And I don't know how they're going to fix that. With the next generation, we still haven't seen the next generation truck.
We have.
So maybe they have something in their back pocket, right? They might have something for the next gen truck, which might actually be a little bit more, slightly larger, more comfortable, technology laden, right? Efficient. Right. All those things will be in it. It has to, right? It has to compete.
I agree 100%. And I think it will be very competitive on the high end, but there won't be a low end competitor.
Yeah, and that's a shame. And they must have a solution for this.
I'm sure they're racking their heads and they're trying to figure it out right now. And I hope they do. Nissan has had a lot of problems, but they have so much potential.
Oh, I know. What they can do is they can take a 3.3 liter V6. They can put a supercharger on top of it.
Okay.
And give it a manual and long wheelbase. And no, they did that years ago, right?
Yeah, they did. Something kind of like that.
Dude, how cool would that be to get actually buy one of those used older trucks?
The old V6 supercharger that he's talking about, which was on the, I believe, second generation Frontier technically, which was my favorite, and I think yours too. We love the way it looks. That's another one I almost bought. Really, really great little truck up here in Colorado because you don't have a lot of power loss because of the supercharger. But the 4 liter that came out to replace it, the regular naturally aspirated one, was more powerful and was a better engine. However, once again, up at high elevation where we live, supercharging is the way to go. So Nissan, if you're listening, bring that engine back and add a manual transmission. Yeah, it's going to happen. Let's move on.
But really quick, that kind of took my mind to TFLbids.com.
Oh, yes.
Where you can buy and sell used trucks.
Just like that.
And guys, if you have a supercharged truck, Nissan, you want to sell, please bring it to TFL Bids.
Bring it to us. I am very interested. And on top of that...
And I might bid on it, actually.
I might bid on it, too.
If my Hummer,
if you sell your Hummer?
No, I know I'm selling it, but if my Hummer brings enough money.
Oh, if it brings enough money, you're going to buy.
Okay.
Yeah, those are really, those Frontiers are so awesome.
Okay, what's next, dude? We have to move on.
My favorite truck, and I'm being completely honest, I still absolutely adore the Ram Power Wagon. It is, for me, for my personality, it's the right truck. I love, there's other ones like the Ford, the big trimmer, the F-250, but the Ram Power Wagon, every time I think about it, it makes me happy. It's obnoxious to a certain degree. My wife hates it, which means it's good, but it's not perfect, and it needs a few things, in my mind, to elevate it to another level. Now, we did have earlier a photo up there from the AEV, ridiculous one. Well, that's far-fetched. But if we can just make a couple little tiny changes to that truck, I think it would be epic. And yes, Power Wagon don't care. But
no, it still doesn't care. Right.
But with my mods in mind, it would care even less.
What do you have in mind?
Well, simple.
Okay.
It needs a little bit more tire.
I absolutely agree.
The one thing about it's a very heavy truck, and the off-road tires on there are actually really good. They're Wranglers, right?
Oh yeah, Duratrax, massive.
Duratrax.
Yeah.
So the thing is that with those Duratrax, regular off-roading, no big deal. But it's such a big truck, it needs more rubber on the ground. And not just when you air it down, just in general, it needs a larger tire, both in diameter and in thickness. It needs just a better setup for off-roading. And the one place where I had problems with the Power Wagon off-road was with traction, going up a very difficult hill, and I think that I would have had no issues had I had more meat on the ground. So that is one of the major things I think they need to fix.
And it's not just a functional thing, right? I think it would make the truck look a little bit more proportional.
Oh,
right?
it would look angry.
Our friend Nina Barlow, right, who runs off-road rentals in Utah and Nevada. She actually put 35s on her Power Wagon.
She did. I asked her about that too, and she said it's so much better. She basically said it fixed everything right then and there.
You didn't really have to trim anything either.
No.
I mean, it just kind of fits in, and it still tucks, articulates.
Yeah,
and all
they articulate, and it's kind of like FCA knew that most people would do this, but still, we're talking about factory vehicles, so I want to get my factory vehicle with bigger tires.
Yeah, there's kind of a common theme, right?
Yeah.
I think tires and trucks are very important,
yes,
depending on what you're getting, and I would agree, So I just recently did a video. It's going to be publishing on TFL Truck.
Okay.
Where I actually was in a 2021 Power Wagon, and I was actually contrasting it against the Ford Raptor.
Against the Raptor,
yeah.
Right.
So that video is publishing on TFL Truck, and when I was in that Power Wagon, yes, I commented on the tires for sure. It needs not just for looks, but for functionality, a little bit more ground clearance, right? But manufacturers and engineers tell us that for production trucks, big tires are hard to do.
Yeah.
Right. You lose efficiency. You have to do all kinds of retesting, like lane change maneuvers,
braking maneuvers,
stability,
all this stuff, right.
Crash protection. It goes on and on. It's very hard to do. So
we make a phone call, they'll fix it. I'm kidding. FCA, really, honestly, I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, but okay, yes, but at the same time, if you look at all the other manufacturers out there, they've upgraded to different tires with cars and trucks for years and years and years. The Power Wagon has basically had the same type of rubber for a long time, and they need to improve it. Now, there are two more places where they could use improvements, Andre. One, they could use a slightly upgraded interior. I think it looks fine, but there is one component on that interior that I'm still not a huge fan of.
The steering wheel?
No.
Oh.
The rotary dial transmission.
Oh, yes.
I really don't like that very much. I know, I harp on it, and I've mentioned it many times. I really would like to have, look, the TRX has a proper gear lever. Right?
They
click, click, click.
They did it, yes.
If they can do that, why can't they do it on the Power Wagon? Now, some of you are saying, well, the Power Wagon does have an option to where you can have, a middle passenger in the front seat. You're right. So, column shift, please. I mean, I'll take that. Not a big fan of the rotary dial.
Dude, column shift would be more macho. I mean, this truck is a bruiser.
Yeah.
Right? And, on the floor, they also have in the Power Wagon, they have a transfer case lever. So I think that would be hard to combine that. Combine.
It would not be. One phone call, we'll fix it.
But a column shift would be awesome. I love column shift.
Would be awesome. And you know what else? The thing about the column shift that makes it much better than the dial, I'm in reverse. I'm in. You know what I mean? You actually know by the position of it physically right in front of you where it's gone. When you play with the dial, almost every time, and I've had a Power Wagon for like 2 weeks, and I still couldn't get used to having to look down and just to make sure that I'm in drive versus reverse, right? And that's an issue for me.
Did you actually turn up the volume when you were trying to?
No, I know. Okay. Some people joked about that, but it's pretty big. No, honestly, it's one of those things where it's a pet peeve. But there's one final thing before we move on.
Yes.
They still don't have a diesel option for it, and I know that the argument from FCA is it's too heavy that way. But Ford managed to do it with the F-250 Tremor, which is a serious off-road bruiser, and I think that it would behoove them, Ram, to make a competitor. And they have a wonderful diesel that would fit right in there, and I think it would be great. And I don't know if that much of a weight gain would be that much of an issue for a truck that weighs as much as a planet.
Well, yeah, we spoke to Ram about this probably more times than I can count.
Yeah.
They talked about a few things. Weight was an issue. Also that Cummins Straight 6, the size of it, both height and length, because they have a winch.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are the things they talked about. I think a lot of our viewers, you guys always tell us diesel, diesel, diesel.
I agree.
Well, maybe their hand is being forced, right? Because Ford is here.
That's the whole point. And once again, competition forces everybody to up their game. So we might see a change in the future. I hope so. All right, let's move on. Speaking of Ram, we're going to move on to the Ram half tons.
Yeah, really quick. I mean, I think Ram 1500s are already great trucks, right?
It's a fantastic truck.
Redesigned, interior, exterior capability. Wow. We've had the Ram Rebel Rouser for a year.
That was a great truck.
Pretty much bulletproof. I mean, it had a couple of small, tiny, recalls that didn't really bother us.
Yeah, and it had a little transfer case issue.
Well, we give it a small lift and tires and
did a few things.
Oh, one of the drive shafts went snapped.
Snappy, that wasn't the drive shaft.
But we modified it.
Yes.
We modified it.
Yeah, but in terms of just a really good truck with the 5.7, just a brilliant engine. But there are a couple things that Andre thinks we should do, and I agree with him.
Yeah, so after testing that Hemi, and Hemi is still glorious, right? It sounds great. Great power, even though they haven't changed this power rating in a very few years.
Forever.
The real world efficiency is a little bit lacking.
Yeah, especially compared to the competition.
Yeah, and especially if you have a four-wheel drive truck with beefy tires like the Rebel does, the real world efficiency, we couldn't come close to the EPA ratings on it. And now we're seeing this world, Chevy has a 4-cylinder in their Silverado, Ford has a hybrid, and other small V6s, right? Ram has a V6 too, but the Pentastar and the Ram is a fine engine, except kind of the towing, and it doesn't have kind of that towing capability. It
strains quite a bit when it's towing, that's for sure. Now there is a diesel.
Yes,
and we've driven the Rebel with the diesel before, and it's pretty good.
And it's a great choice, except for price. It increases the price way up.
Yep.
Right. So if I could improve the Ram 1500 in one way, I would give it something to increase kind of the base fuel efficiency. I don't know if it's a turbocharged V6. Everybody seems to be going there, right? I don't know if it's maybe a hybrid system of some sort that's a little bit more affordable. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I hear you, and I agree. And you know what would fit right in there? And I know FCA guys are sitting there just going, "Shut up, Nathan." I'm going to say it. The powertrain that is currently being put into the now being produced Jeep Wrangler 4xe.
It's available.
It's a plug-in hybrid.
It's available. It's there.
Available, right. Shove that into a Ram Rebel and see what happens.
Yes.
It could be a very interesting truck, plus it would lower your CAFE scores.
Yeah, it would increase the price.
Oh, yeah.
It would not be a cheap option.
Stupid expensive truck, but that's the problem. They're all expensive anyway.
But yeah, it will be very competitive against the rest.
Could you imagine that? In fact, they would be the only one with a plug-in hybrid pickup truck if they were to do that. So you're welcome, Mike Manley and everybody else at FCA. I've just given you a shot in the arm, basically inoculating you against CAFE numbers in the near future. You're welcome.
Wow, you're very topical.
You like that?
What's next?
Okay, let's move on. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
The Toyota Tundra. Okay, now we know that the Toyota Tundra is supposed to have an all-new model, which, by the way, was supposed to already be here or at least be introduced. But that's been delayed for obvious reasons. The Toyota Tundra needs basically an all-new truck from the ground up. Not that it's a bad truck, but it needs so much. So what does this truck need as an improvement?
Well, dude, it's a great truck. It's it's proven to be reliable.
Tough as nails.
It tows not the highest amounts in the class,
but it tows pretty damn
tows
good.
Really good because it's got a V8.
Yeah, and they're really inexpensive if you compare them to the competition in terms of toe-to-toe.
Yeah, because if you take a competitive V6 from other manufacturers against the V8, it's almost the same price.
Right, so suddenly you're in the same territory with the big hunk and 5.7.
Once again, so I'm showing a picture of a TRD Pro Tundra that we recently towed with. Great truck, did well on the mountain.
Fake air scoop.
A couple of fake hood scoops. Maybe remove those. Let's start there.
Yes. Toyota, stop it. Please, just stop. Stop now. It's a funny thing because they actually had a functional, optional aftermarket desert air intake available for the Tacoma, which they got rid of. The one functional scoop that they had, they got rid of. This vehicle has these two scoops, not one, but two. And it's just like, it's such a brutal truck. It really doesn't need these extra fake scoops. I don't really understand the point of it.
And also it takes some of the vision away from the driver, right?
Yeah,
because it raises the hood.
It's just completely unnecessary.
It's not necessary. Once again, tires. I think the tires are really, and I know they're not going to change it because the next one is coming in a year, right?
Yeah.
And I know, not many more things will be changed on this truck. But when you put that TRD Pro next to another truck, competitive truck. It's awesome in every way except fuel efficiency, maybe. But the tires are small again. Once again, small.
They're on the small side. There is something else it needs, which I'm hoping they'll do with the next generation, but I'm not sure.
What?
Something everybody else except for General Motors does. Having an option off-road for a locking rear diff, a proper electronic locking rear differential.
Or maybe with the front limited slip as well.
If you want to go that far, why not just put a twin turbocharged V6 with a hybrid system in it?
Oh, they might be doing it. So yeah, anyway, Toyota, what else can we say? It's a good truck. Even the interiors are,
oh man,
I'm okay with it.
It's a completely usable interior. Yeah. That's the argument. But at the same time, if you're looking at the price that you're spending on any truck, and then you look at what Ram's able to do, Ram is absolutely knocking it out of the park with interior quality and design. And I think that Toyota, one of the largest companies in the world, could find a way to, I don't know, maybe borrow components from BMW and put them in there. Who cares? The point is that they need to make a nicer interior as well.
I think they're listening. I think the next truck, I have high hopes. Maybe my expectations are too high.
I don't think I'm going to get a phone call from Akio Toyota about this, though.
But Mr. Toyota, please call us.
Call Andre. He's better on the phone. He's nicer than I am. Okay, let's move on. Speaking of the competition to Toyota, it's the Nissan Titan. There's a very simple fix for this truck.
What?
They need to make the Warrior concept that they've been throwing in our face for a couple of years.
Oh, yes.
They need to just make it look like that. Just stop screwing around, build it. You will increase your sales twofold. Not only that, but you need to increase its ground clearance because it's not as good as the competition. Especially its approach angle is one of the lowest out there for their Pro 4X package. And on top of that, better tires.
I would agree across the board. We recently had a Pro 4X, like you said.
Which was a really good truck. Fantastic truck.
We recently had a XD. Mm-hmm. They still have the XD with no diesel, though.
Yep.
So they're trying to simplify. So their sales are not growing, or their sales is not where they want them to be, right?
Not even close.
So in order to basically compete and survive, they're kind of paring down a little bit, making it more simple. Not as many options, right? One engine, right? One transmission, still XD and a regular Titan, which I understand completely and I like. But yes, if they can, add a couple more things, make an off-road version more like a true Warrior, like you said, like a concept.
Just go for it. Screw it. Do it.
I mean, it already looks good, but I think they could just
the Warrior is so much better looking.
Tune a few things that actually make it awesome. And then also, it needs a V6.
An entry-level engine.
Or an entry-level engine. We know the Frontier has a new one.
Yeah, the 3.8 is a brilliant engine.
Why can't they shove it in the Titan?
They already got the same transmission. Just pop it in there.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Make a phone call.
Okay.
We're going to make that happen. That's about all we got with the Titan, but we want to move on to General Motors because there's actually quite a bit. We're talking about the General Motors half-ton trucks. There's a lot of stuff that I think that they need to remove and replace to make them better. So
where do you want to start? I'm not quite sure exactly. Are you starting with the Silverado or both? Sierra?
They're both. Okay. Much. The General Motors.
So hit me.
Okay. They need to get rid of the 8-speed automatic transmissions. I know that it's sort of this mid-level transmission because they do have an entry-level 6-speed on certain trucks, and they have the 10-speed. The 10-speed's been a proven transmission. The Trail Boss that we have, we'll soon be getting rid of, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. That engine transmission combination of 5.3 with the 10-speed has been brilliant, has been rock solid. People that I've talked to who have the 10-speed have been thrilled with it. Not a whole lot of problems reported. The 8-speed, on the other hand, we have personal first-hand experience with this transmission, and it has not been great. And there have been other people who've complained about it as well. I think that they should probably get rid of it and simplify the transmission choices with one base transmission and then the 10-speed to make things a lot easier.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm there with you. I think, so a couple things, right? The Silverado and Sierra, and actually Sierra to some extent is doing actually a little bit better as far as growing sales, improving, and doing all those things. The Silverado is also fairly competitive, although Ram is really
It's really
fighting.
starting to,
Really fighting with them. And of course, Ford is still kind of out front right now as far as sales are concerned on the F-Series trucks. But I think the Silverado, I think there's one thing, it's in my mind, that will improve sales of all Silverados. If they put in the dealership a truck that's a competitor to the Raptor,
yes,
and or TRX fighter, I'm talking about supercharged V8. I don't care which engine you.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Wide body, big tires, supercharged engine. It could cost $100,000 or whatever it may cost, but it will bring people there.
It's a halo vehicle.
It's a halo vehicle.
Exactly. I totally get you.
You know, the trail bus is there, but it's not a true halo, right?
No.
So if they have a halo and it'll bring customers into the shop, into the dealer, and actually improve everything.
Yeah, I agree with you, but add to that one more thing.
What?
They need to get rid of the G80 on that super truck you're talking about and the trail bus. The G80 is perfectly good. We're talking about the rear diff,
Yes.
which is a mechanically locking rear diff, which unfortunately when you're off-road, it takes a lot of wheel spin before it seems to kick in and go. It works pretty good on snow, actually. I've driven quite a few of them on snow. But off-road, we've actually had some videos where you can see there's some problems, and it just takes time. I would much rather have a button or a switch where I can flip it, boom, locked. Which, by the way, they do have in their Chevy Colorado ZR2,
Yes, they do.
which is driving me crazy. So in terms of putting it into this truck, why not? So in your Halo truck, absolutely, great idea. They need to build it. Probably supercharged to 6.2. That is their most powerful engine. Or take the Corvette engine. Or how about that Blackwing engine they spent billions on and didn't use?
Yeah, any of those engines.
Any
The
of those engines.
latest Corvette engine is amazing.
Yes, absolutely.
Even with no supercharger, it's already amazing.
Just dump it in there and basically just say, yeah, this is our truck vet, whatever, and you know it'll beat everybody. It doesn't matter. What matters is, you know, we know that General Motors can do it. We've seen them do it, but they haven't done it yet with their half-ton trucks, and we've had a lot of hints that they're working on it, but we haven't seen a damn thing. Now I know what they're going to say. I know what they're going to say.
What?
They're going to say GMC Hummer.
Yes, they might say that because that's our halo, technology halo for them.
But it's not
but it's different.
approachable for a regular human being.
But it's also electric. So
Yeah,
it has,
not everybody wants an electric truck.
right, so it's a halo in the technology sense, but it's not a true halo for like the regular person that's there now.
Volume sales are going to be gas-powered vehicles for a long
while,
time
yes.
in the truck world. So, and we know that. Okay, let's move on to Ford and their half-ton trucks, because there are a couple things that they could use as well.
Yeah, are you talking about F-150 or
Yep.
Super Duty or?
Well, it's kind of, you
Okay.
can mix and match, but pretty much I'm just talking about the F-150 personally, and I'm sure you probably have something to say about the Super Duty, but I want to say three things about the half-ton Ford F-150. I'm talking about the new one, not the current one, the 2020. I'm talking about that one, the 2021.
Okay.
They're 2.7. Thank God they're bringing it back. I love that twin turbocharged V6. Mount the 7-speed manual transmission to it and see what happens. Probably not a lot, but it would be really, really fun. Especially think about it like a fun little sports truck with a manual. How much fun would that be? Come on, guys.
A little baby Lightning?
Why
Is that
not?
what you're saying?
That thing would haul.
See-
It would be so much fun.
See, Ford, what you've started? You put a manual in the Bronco, and now we think that anything can have a manual.
I know everything can have a manual. It's not think, it's I know. Now, on top of that, there is one more thing, and a lot of you guys have been clamoring for it. Twin turbocharged V8 in the next Raptor. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I think that would be epic.
So Ford has this thing where they've invested billions and millions into the EcoBoost technology, right?
Yeah.
And the twin turbo V6s, and they're good engines. You know,
Without a doubt.
Over the years, give and take a few issues, you know, that every manufacturer has.
Teething issues, yeah.
And they're like focused on it, right? And they're good at listening to customers, right? We
yeah.
know this because they've put a lot of useful features into their trucks. But for some reason, they're hearing V8 Raptor, and so far they didn't deliver. They didn't come through.
Which is strange. I mean, when the Raptor first started, for those of you who don't know, the initial Raptors did have V8s in them, and then the second generation they put in V6s. Now, the V6 outperforms the V8 in almost every way. However, there are a lot of people out there that really do want either a naturally aspirated V8 or at least a turbocharged or supercharged V8. Now, rumor has it that they have this 5-liter V8, which is a really good engine that would work really well.
I think its nickname starts with a C, like a howling thing. Yeah.
And they also have some. Now, a lot of the other people were speculating that the engine that they're using in like the GT500 would shove in there or something like that. You know, who knows?
Okay.
You know, I wish. The bottom line is that having a V8 of some sort inside the Raptor would please both sides of the aisle, right? It would please the people who want to hear that V8 groan, but if you make a twin turbocharged V8, it's going to be ridiculously powerful and probably compete head to head with the TRX. So we're just saying that would be cool.
Yeah, and people are saying that they could put a 7.3 V8 in there, supercharged, or then maybe there's another rumor that a 6.8, slightly lower displacement version of the 7.3 could go in there.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know, dude.
Really
there's a lot of rumors, and the rumors are there because Ford hasn't really come out and said absolutely zero V8 choices ever. You know, they haven't really put their foot down.
No, they haven't.
But they're always saying, you know, just look at our hybrid technology and our turbocharging technology.
And it's entirely possible. Yeah, they might go hybrid.
It might be a hybrid Raptor as well.
Yeah, and if so, it could be epic or it could be scary. So we don't know.
I would agree with you. And also, I just want to say that I'm glad Ford listened and are building an F-150 Tremor.
Yep.
So they announced it officially that an F-150 Tremor is coming next year.
And that kind of cuts the space between, you know, the Raptor.
Yes.
And then the what would that be? The
FX4.
FX4 package. Yeah. So it sits like right in between the two.
Yeah, except it did everything right except one thing.
What's tires?
No, engine. So they said, guys, we're going to build a Tremor, F-150. It's going to be awesome. It's not going to be as expensive as the Raptor, potentially.
Okay.
And it's going to have a lift and more capability than the FX4. And you can only have it with an EcoBoost. And then people's jaws just...
So you can't get a Coyote?
No.
Oh, really?
Or 2.7.
Why are you hurting me like this?
So 3.5 is the only engine. And I think I know where they're going.
Okay.
I think because of... Once again, simplification, because complexity is very difficult and costly.
I can understand that.
They're going to start with the V6 and maybe throw in the Coyote later.
One could only hope because they have recently updated the Coyote.
Yes. So, guys, we've been asking for a V8 F-150 off-road truck, and then they just gave us everything
except for that V8, right?
So, okay.
And we love that Coyote. We really do.
What's next, dude? What's next?
Well, we're done, except for the bonus.
Oh, you might be talking about, what, a Rivian?
No, I'm talking about vehicles that are actually being produced.
Okay.
The Rivian, hey, until I see a Rivian actually in a showroom of some sort, it's not being produced.
Okay,
Same with the Tesla,
I agree.
Cybertruck, and blah, blah, blah. No, the bonus is the Honda Ridgeline. I know everybody's out there going, what? How dare you? It's a truck show. It has a bed. We're going to include it because it technically does compete against some of the mid-sized trucks. And there are a few things that we think that they could do to improve it. Now, first of all, recently, Honda did a major facelift with the Ridgeline to make it look much more trucky.
Yes, nobody knows about it.
Nobody knows about it. We talked about this in a previous video. Honda hasn't done like any PR with this thing.
Okay, some people know about it.
Not
hardcore Ridgeline guys know about this.
Oh, of course, yeah, you know,
and gals,
not a lot,
and gals.
But the thing is first of all, let's quickly talk about the Ridgeline. Ridgeline, a lot of some people have like sent me notes saying nobody cares about the Ridgeline. That's not true. Their sales have been so stable throughout the past
and improving.
But in a very linear fashion. Honda has been brilliant about this truck because it is feeding their customers, and then every once in a while they bring somebody else from the outside in. Part of that sales has to do with the fact that it has a remarkably comfortable ride and interior. Basically, it's a crossover, but it has pretty good capability. However, we think they could do better.
Yes, they have this off-road version now, right? The Honda Performance.
Right.
Which is great. The all-wheel drive system is amazing.
And, you know.
Yeah, they have wheels, they have some trim, they have, obviously Honda motorcycles in the back, right?
Yeah.
But they left the ground clearance the same as before. The tire size is about the same as before. I was really hoping, they're facelifting it, right? And it's okay. I was really hoping for blocks, squares.
More of a manly look.
Just, so the Toyota has TRD Pro, right? Quite macho.
Yeah.
There's a ZR2, once again macho.
Yeah.
This still feels, a little bit more macho, but not quite as macho as they can do.
I think that they took a step in the right direction, but they needed to take another step. I think that the front bumper should have been shaved down for the special off-road version to allow for a better approach angle.
Yeah.
I think it needs at least a 2-inch lift front and rear. I think you can do that without having to change the entire configuration of the A-arms and the dog bones and everything else that's in there. I think you can get away with 2 inches, or roughly 2 inches. Bigger tires, the wheels it's kind of interesting, but I think that there's a step away, but there's more. This truck is capable of pulling 5,000 pounds.
Yeah, that's not enough.
It's not too bad for a crossover. It's just fine. Now, bear in mind that this, yes, it is basically a crossover, but it does have a subframe in the back to a certain degree, and it's a very unique build the way they designed this vehicle. So, I was kind of hoping, and so was Andre, that they could bump it up a little bit, maybe bring it up to 6,000 pounds, and also perhaps increase the payload a little bit.
Yeah, and payload is actually competitive.
It's competitive.
It's like 1,500 pounds.
Right, I want it to be 1,600 pounds.
Which is very competitive, and I think they can improve it slightly, but I agree. If you want to bring a bigger trailer, you can do it with a Ridgeline. You can do it with other mid-sized trucks.
I've towed like 4,000 pounds with it, and it towed brilliantly. Didn't sag as much as I thought it would. It was really good, but it was near its limits.
Yeah, but you know what they did? They have a dual exhaust system.
Well, the dual exhaust is really important, and they need a racing stripe, and then you'll get that extra power. Some people aren't very fond of the new 9-speed that they have in there that they added about a year ago, right?
It's also a push button now.
That's right. What Nathan doesn't like very much. I just don't like push buttons. I don't like dials either. I just or something, you know what I mean? Like something you grab.
Levers and levers.
Levers and levers. That's right. But I do like the facelift. I do like the look of it. I would own one. I totally would. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all, provided that I didn't go off-road that often. We've taken them off-road and they've done actually right. Better actually than we thought. The 4x4 system in this is really an all-wheel drive system, but it's very sophisticated and it's quite capable. Back in the day when we had Goldmine Hill, we bounced it over Goldmine Hill, no problem. It did fantastic. I've taken it off-road before the first generation even in Moab, Utah, and it did okay. But could they build a better version that's a little bit more off-road worthy? You bet they can. This is Honda we're talking about. So
they built dirt bikes and side-by-sides.
Epic vehicles.
And everything, and jet airplanes.
For those of you both on TFL car and truck and off-road, we actually saw a SEMA version of this, an older version, slightly older version of this truck, where they took everything off of it and basically put side-by-side stuff on it. That is the perfect Ridgeline. That's the vehicle I'd be willing to spend 40 grand on to get if they would build it. I just said it.
Agree.
If they built it, I will pay, provided that it is better off-road than this. Yeah.
All right, well, guys, let us know what you think.
We really want to know. We do want to read your comments, and we do read your comments. So let us know what improvements you think, realistically, come on, with these trucks. Or if we've missed something that you think we should add, please write it down below.
Yeah, or if you want to put a jet engine on the Ridgeline, that's also doable.
Well, Honda does build jet engines.
All right, thanks, guys.
See you next time.